Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, the most popular man in Knoxville, Tennessee these days. You're seeing him all over the place. You're reading him, you're seeing him on TV, you're seeing current sitting SEC head coaches quote tweet on the articles that he's writing these days. It's Ryan Schumpert of Rocky Top Insider. Ryan, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. An SEC head coach said on this program, I've said nothing but good things about.
It's true.
I have not, criticized anyone else on this podcast for being so pro Lane Kiffin. So, no, doing well. Been a cool few days, but glad to be on here to hash out some Tennessee basketball and whatever else we get into.
No, we were gonna focus mostly on Tennessee baseball left field situation. If that's all right.
First base situation's the interesting one.
First base got interesting in a hurry. But as we get closer to baseball season, we'll dive into that. But Ethan Stone, also here of Saturday Down South, just getting excited, counting on the minutes till his Chicago Bears hire Mike McCarthy now that he's available to save the Chicago Bears. Ethan, how are you?
Certainly ain't going to be Ben Johnson. The history tells us that much. But yeah, hoping heavily that it's not Mike McCarthy. I'm doing well. I did a lot of good work today, settling in for a good month of basketball. I'm ready to talk some Tennessee hoops and whatever else we get into.
I love it. There is some Tennessee hoops that we got to get into here, and it starts with Tennessee, Texas. Tennessee finishes strong behind Darlinstone Dubar, Zakai Ziegler, and Felix Okpara down the stretch in Austin, in what I think we could say is the worst SEC home environment in the conference. Like that was awful. I don't know if it was part television and just how it came off from the outside. But Ryan, you were in there. It felt to me like that place was dead. Like that was a pretty putrid building and atmosphere for a big time SEC game.
Yeah, it was very dead. Definitely one of the worst atmospheres of an SEC game I've been at least for a team that's like competent. Sure, some Mississippi State games or South Carolina games when those two teams have been terrible have been pretty dead, but it was very dead in there. The students had a lot of low seating, and there were no students there, which certainly didn't help. And I do think there's a little bit of a hangover from the loss in football the day before. I know Oregon kind of had the same thing the day after they lost to Rose Bowl. They played Illinois at home, and watching that game on TV was pretty dead too. So I'm sure that's part of it. But I will say, I overheard someone at one point when I was walking back up to my seat after the press conferences and stuff, and it was I think it was maybe a Texas student talking to some adults, maybe parent or whatnot, and they were talking about how bad the environment's been this year and how they played UConn at home and how the environment was terrible for that, and they thought it would be a real tough ticket, and none of the students came. So willing to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for the hangover from the football loss the day before, but it does not seem like that fan base is too fired up for basketball.
No, and they saw why again on Saturday as they lost again. Tough week for them getting Auburn and Tennessee even at home in the same week, but it's not looking great right out of the gate here for the Texas Longhorns. Ethan Stone, the most important point though coming out of Tennessee, Texas, and the Vols victory was what for you?
I thought there was a lot of interesting things that happened in that game. I'd say my biggest thought coming out of it, the thing I couldn't quite get my head off afterwards, even though Tennessee won, was probably a negative, and that was Igor's got to do something to be more aggressive, just in general. He's great defensively, he's great on the boards, so he's still an asset, and I don't think Tennessee needs to move him around or anything like that, but it just feels like he has not even scratched the surface of what he could be as far as a scoring threat for Tennessee, which is something that I feel like they could really use, especially at the 4 with Felix being kind of limited in that department. And I mean, I think I texted you guys about it. If he pump fakes one more time and doesn't do anything about it, what are we doing? Igor, buddy, you got to either shoot, drive, or do something. He just pump fakes and then I don't know. Maybe he's being told not to shoot. I truly don't know. I'm not in the locker room. He's shot well from 3 in the past. He hasn't been off to a fantastic start here, but recently he started to make some more. So Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part, wanting them to kind of become more of that stretch four that he was, I guess, advertised to be before he came here. I've seen it. He has it in him. He can do all these things. He can drive really well. When he does put his head down and drive, it usually works out. He got a couple baskets that way, obviously in that last one against Texas. So that's what I want to see from him. That's what I want to see from, I guess, the Vols moving forward, is just like find a way to get him. I don't know if it's confidence, or I don't know if it's just that he truly is being told not to shoot the threes, but I'd love to see that become a part of Tennessee's offense moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, 1 3-point attempt for Igor is just like, it just can't happen, especially because he, like you said, he's a good 3-point shooter, and he passed.
And he
up
made
some,
it.
He made it, but he also passed up some open looks. Like he's passing it, like he's dribbling out of great shots where he's doing the sidestep, he pumps and does this, and it's like no, just launch, and Tennessee ends up taking a worse shot at the end of that shot clock. It's extremely aggravating because Igor, he has it, but it's like, Igor, you can't take one 3-pointer. Like you just can't. Like the way this offense is built, like you've got to be firing. And the other part of it is rebounding. Like with Cade's shoulder being what it is right now, I mean, it can't all be Felix Okpara and company. Like Igor's going to have to. It doesn't mean he has to be the kind of rebounding numbers he was putting up against Arkansas, but I mean, he's got to rebound at a strong level, and he's got to be more active. Like we know he's a confident guy, and we know he has it in him, but I mean, those two things just have to be on the docket. But the 3-point stuff just blows my mind, Ryan. Like I don't understand it at all.
I'm with you, and I think obviously without having watched a bunch of Charlotte last year, like it kind of lends itself out a bit in the numbers. Like when you talk about the guys that Tennessee added in Igor, D-Stone, and then obviously Chaz, like 3-point shooting was one of the big pluses for all of them. And Igor shot at a good clip, I think around 37% last year, but had by far the fewest attempts of those three guys. Like Chaz hit over 100 threes, D-Stone hit, I want to say 73, 75 threes, and Igor hit like 35. And I think you're kind of seeing that hesitance a little bit now. And I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or what, but he definitely seems tentative. And I don't know if it was that slow stretch, but I feel like we kind of saw that earlier in the year too. Like he just doesn't seem like he has quite the shooter's mentality of firing it. Like, and obviously Chaz has that. And I think D-Stone has that. Like you kind of saw it in this game where, from some of the, and I know we're going to talk about it more later, but some of the quotes from like Zakai and D-Stone, it was kind of like, F it, let's ball. And that was like D-Stone was firing shots up. When D-Stone had a slither, he was like, I'm letting it rip. And we've seen that at different times this year. I don't know, it doesn't feel like Igor quite has that. To me, I feel fine about the rebounding. Like, yes, he is going to have to continue to rebound at a high level. He grabbed 7 rebounds in that game at Florida. He grabbed 6 in 23 minutes at Texas when he didn't play a ton in the second half, with Tennessee rolling with D-Stone over him. So I'm not necessarily worried about that, but I think any critique about him needing to shoot the ball more is completely fair. And I think Ethan for sure would agree with this. Chase, I don't know if you would too. I feel like we're at the point in the season where, to me, he's the X factor for Tennessee. It feels like there's more there for him on the offensive end of the court, and for a team that's solid offensively, but not great. To me, I feel like he's the guy that can really raise the ceiling on that end.
I would agree with that 100%.
I don't even know who the X factor is right now. I think Igor is one of them. I mean, a win is a win, but there's so many different takeaways I had from this game. And one of the things that I'm curious about going forward is, the offensive stagnation, the issues there was on full display again. And I don't even really I think the defense is really good again. I think the defense is going to continue to be fine. Like Trey Johnson was hitting some crazy shots in this game, and you just live with a lot of those. Pope was also hitting some really crazy and some just not efficient 2-pointers, long twos and stuff. Oh yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
One stat there and a joke with it, and I'm glad you led into it perfectly with the long twos. Texas 11 and 21 in this game from non-rim 2-pointers. Yeah. And it felt like an ode to Rick Barnes. It felt like an ode to Texas Rick Barnes with just the contested mid-range jumpers that Texas was hitting over and over and over again. I mean, of those 11, it felt like 6 or 7 at least were really, really well defended and shots Tennessee would want Texas to take every single time down the court. But Texas, they found a way to make enough of them to stay in the game.
And I think Ryan, we've talked about this, but I mean, now you have 2 games of this. I mean, Jemai Meshack does not put up a 3. I'm sure a lot of it, like, we don't know what's going on with the finger and like how much of that's hampering him getting shots up and that. But I mean, passing up that layup where he goes up and under instead of just dunking or just shooting it, like he made it significantly harder than he needed to be in that moment. And I don't know, it just offensively, if he's going to start and you have Felix Okpara, who's not a shooter, obviously, he's a rim running 5. Igor, who is not a willing shooter right now from 3, if he's only shooting 1 3 right now, that it gets very uncomfortable in a hurry in the half court for Tennessee, because Zakai's always looking to pass. Like, Zakai's moving around. Like, Zakai's going to be active, but he is still looking to pass. And if he's getting up a 3, it's usually late in the shot clock and it's deep, and it's just kind of what he has to do. But it's not his preferred option of offense in the half court. I don't know what you do there. We're going to talk about Dubar here in a second, but what do you think is like what can be done with Jemai in the half court to maybe get him more comfortable, to get more active? I mean, the dunking stuff will always be just kind of mind-boggling for me. Is like he can dunk. I don't know why he doesn't dunk on fast breaks and things like it. Just I don't get it. But like if they're going to defend him the way that Texas was in this game at times, and we're only playing better teams. Like Auburn is coming up. Georgia's now ranked on Wednesday. I don't know if it's going to be a thing. Like Jemai's going to have to prove that he will take those threes and he will make some of them again. But it can get crowded in a hurry in the half court with how Igor, Felix, and Jemai are currently playing on offense.
For sure. I mean, it's a problem right now. I don't think there's any getting around it. I mean, you have, to me, what feels like Jemai playing a Draymond Green-esque role offensively, and you just can't do that at the 3 spot. To me, if you have a complete non-shooter and Felix on the court, you have, as we've talked about, Igor a little tentative, Zakai, a 30% free 3-point shooter, and then obviously one really good shooter in Chaz. Like it just gets things bogged up, and you saw that a lot in the Texas game, and that's now 3 of the last 4 Power 5 teams Tennessee's played has guarded Jemai this way, with the exception of Arkansas. Florida did it, Illinois did it, and it's just I don't know what it looks like. Like I think he's got to shoot some, but it's a balancing act of like I don't think just because he hits 1 or 2, teams are going to come out and start guarding him because of that. And I think every team Tennessee would play would be happy with Jemai taking 10 threes a game or something. So I don't know exactly what that looks like. I don't know if it's changing up some lineups and playing him more as a stretch 4 on the court and less at the 3 spot. But it's something Tennessee's going to have to continue to work through, because I don't think it's going anywhere at this point. And I did think he was more active offensively in the Texas game. I thought he did some better things offensively, getting to the rim than he did against Florida, or maybe he did in that Illinois game. But I think this is going to be something we're going to see, if not be an issue. Tennessee's going to have to plan around it and attack some things differently from here on out, because the way it's worked for other teams, I have a hard time thinking most teams aren't going to have this game plan.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan, he's not getting to the line. He's 1 of 4 in his last 4 games from the free throw line. He's taken just 4 threes on his last 5 games, made 1, 0 steals in his last 2 games, which is really weird. And I mean, that's something when you notice more of Jemai. And I mean, Jemai is just so good, obviously, and his defensive plus minus, box plus minus is great. It's like plus 8.6 right now, but it's in the negatives offensively right now. Like it is it's a very strong disparity between what he is doing offensively and defensively, and it's complicated because we all love Jemai and what he brings to this team on and off the court, and seeing the best of Jemai and his versatility. And I mean, he had 10 steals total against Arkansas, Miami, and Illinois, and I think you notice when Jemai's not getting Tennessee in transition, making those winning plays on defense to get Tennessee moving, because that also helps. Like if you can get 6 to 8 points from Jemai just being active on defense, swatting the ball, forcing turnovers, and getting Tennessee running, like that's huge for Tennessee on offense. And like that doesn't come up in quote unquote offensive stats, but it's like that is something that Jemai is really good at and can help them in a lot of ways. But even I mean, this kind of leads into the next question. I mean, Darlinstone Dubar goes off, and there aren't a lot of confident shooters on Tennessee right now. And Dubar is maybe your most confident shooter. And I never thought I would say that even with Chaz Lanier on the team, because I mean, Rick Barnes talked about it, taking Chaz immediately out for passing up a shot and had that quote that went viral. Like, I think Dubar, there's a real conversation I think that we can have that Dubar and Lanier kind of maybe need to be tried in the starting lineup together to see how quick of an offensive start Tennessee gets so they don't put themselves in a hole, because I just don't know if you have enough scoring right now with Igor playing the way he is, Felix's limitations on offense, and Jemai being where he's at offensively in the half court. I think if Dubar is turned to the corner a little bit offensively where he is going to at least take those threes and rise and fire and has that confidence, I think you live with the defensive issues that he might have. That's where I'm at. I'm okay with the breakdowns if he's rising and firing like he did against Texas.
Yeah, you posed this question to us the other day, and I had to do some thinking about it. I think I agree with you. It's crazy how quickly we've gone from like at the beginning of the season and seeing what Jemai was able to do. It's so obvious that something is different. And like you said, Chase, I don't know to what extent his fingers messing with him. I don't know to what extent his finger mixed with the transition to SEC play is messing with him. But something's not going right, because you mentioned the no scoring, and that's just kind of something that we've lived with Jemai across the past 4 years. But it's weird that he has back-to-back games without a single steal. Like he's had 3 games this entire season where he hasn't had a steal, and 2 of them have been in the past week. Like that's like I understand that's a bit like push my glasses up a little bit, but like come on, like that's his thing. That's what he does. He's a pest. He's a taller guy. He gets to their guards and he messes with them, and he just hasn't been. I don't think he's been doing that to the same level yet. And so whatever it is, Jemai is certainly not a dude that's going to complain about being put on the bench and being told you need to be the spark that comes off the bench, because that's the type of stuff he's done for the past while in Knoxville until this season. So I would love to see it myself. Dubar's had one great game in the past couple games. He played well, I think, kind of like before this season, not before this season, before this month, I guess, before that last game against Texas. He's kind of slowly been starting to build himself back up, and obviously he had a delayed start compared to the rest of the team. But just seeing what he can give you in that, I believe Barnes brought it up in the post-game presser that he can go into Cameron Indoor last year and drop 24 points. I guarantee you can do that against the Vanderbilts, the Georgias of the world, even though I think they're really good. We'll get to that in a minute. But I would like to see it. I'd like to see him start and just see if it changes anything up, because exactly what we've been talking about for the past 5 minutes here. When you get to the point where Chaz isn't hitting his shots like he usually does, Felix is limited, Cade's dealing with the shoulder problem, Igor's being tentative. Like Jordan Gainey's the only one I actually feel is going to go out there alongside Zakai and Chaz and actually like try right now. And for lack of a better term, I know they're trying, but he's
going to get shots up. Like Jordan Gainey is confident in his shot. Like he's going to get shots up.
Yeah, and I feel similarly with Dubar. I feel like he is kind of that same vein, and that he's not going to stop shooting, and he's shown us already that he can score. So I'd like to make that change. I'm not saying it's necessarily a massive problem. I mean, Tennessee won the game on the road against a solid Texas team, one that's probably going to be at the bottom of the SEC, but still a solid Texas team nonetheless. I think you move with that momentum. I think moving forward, going into a good Georgia team, I think you should give them the start myself. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but that's what I do.
What do you think, Ryan?
I kind of go back and forth on it. Like, my natural instinct is just what is often my natural instinct when Chase pitches things, which is, all right, buddy, let's slow your roll here a little bit. In the sense of, like, he had one big game. We don't need to just be like, this is the answer. And I still have that thought a little bit, but at the same time, I do think it's a problem. The offensive options on the current starting lineup. And I think you've seen pretty consistently this season, no stats to back this up, just vibes, pure vibes take. I feel like Tennessee has gotten off to slow starts offensively in a lot of games.
Yeah.
And my initial thought was more, well, I just put Jordan Gainey in the starting lineup. That's what I would do to spark it more, because that's a better shooter. That's the guy you trust a little bit more on the defensive end. And I don't think you lose. Like, he can play the 3 spot, or Chaz can play the 3 spot. I don't think that's a big loss. But what I do find intriguing is for a guy like D-Stone who confidence has been a little shaky. It's just been a rocky year for D-Stone at Tennessee, and with all of that, and I wonder if putting him in the starting lineup it might give him a juice or some juice or a boost. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't hate the idea of doing that and trying to figure out. I think again the challenge is going to continually be for Dubar is mixing for finding that happy medium of playing with confidence, playing loose, playing aggressive, with playing within the flow of the offense. You talk about the defensive breakdowns. I think that at times has been just as big as a problem on the offensive end. Is him just? It doesn't feel like he's maybe in sync as much with the other guys, and some of that's probably to be expected due to the fact that he is a transfer, and he missed the time early in the year. I think that'll be the challenge if you do put him in the starting lineup. But I am intrigued by the thought of it and seeing, all right, what does this do for his confidence? Because certainly, like putting Jordan Gainey in there, I think it would help with the spacing and it would help give a little bit more firepower in that first five for Tennessee.
I just think they have a math problem right now with their starting lineup. Like I think, and I don't hate Gainey in the starting lineup. I just think he's already confident and comfortable as the guy coming in off the bench. Like I just feel like he's okay there. And he's playing really well in that. Dubar, I don't want to lose like this potential, like him turning the corner here. You know what I mean? Where it just kind of like, I think this could be a turning point for him where, I mean, he was confident. I mean, him talking to the crowd and shushing the crowd, like D-Stone is like, he's fantastic. Like I'm here for the D-Stone renaissance. And I think it's just, the guy is a bucket, and I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, he shot 40% from three his last 2 years at Hofstra, and he is going to get those shots up. And I just think they have to accept they have a math problem offensively in the starting lineup, and it will come back to bite them if they don't make some sort of change. And D-Stone, and it also takes maybe some pressure off Lanier, because I mean, this kind of leads into the other question is like, Lanier has had a very difficult welcome to the SEC experience here on the road, but I mean, that would be nice. Like, I mean, you really only have one shooter who you know is confident getting his threes, and they also can shoot above 35% from three in the starting lineup. And I think if you're a team now that's shooting a bunch of threes and is more threes and at the rim designed offense, then you need to have guys who are like, you need to be more Houston Rockets. You know who Darlinstone Dubar is? He's like Trevor Ariza for Tennessee. Like, Ethan, as more of an NBA guy, you'll appreciate this. They're trying to do the Harden Chris Paul Rockets with Sakai and Chaz. And you have the rim running five, who the Clint Capella here is Felix Okpara. And then you have two wings who are 3-and-D wings who get shots up. And I think that has to be Igor and Dubar. Like, those two guys have to get up shots. And if Meshuck's not going to take those threes and is not going to, like, you just can't survive that way. Like, it's just a math thing. And I think the way they're built, I would rather have two shooters in those wing positions and in the starting lineup. I think Dubar has to go in the starting lineup. As of Wednesday, and I know Rick's ready to
112-point game was all it took for Chase to declare this has to happen.
It has to happen. Like, Dubar has to be in the starting lineup. You got to ride this wave, man. You got to ride it.
I don't know if I'm at a have to have at this point, but I certainly see your point. Like, it gets frustrating when you got, I mean, like we've said before, you got Igor not really shooting, and you know that Dubar is going to go out there and shoot. And you know that Jemai, like, something's up with him, and it takes a lot for me to say that I can listen to the thought of Jemai sitting, because I mean, the start of the season, he was just fantastic. He was the stat box would never ever show it. He was one of our best players, and you get to the point where he's now it looks scared to shoot three. It's like, you can't have that. It's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of the situation. You got to have guys that can, like you just said, Chase. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You got to have guys that go out there and aren't afraid to shoot it and can make the basket. Now, Dubar, he scored 3 points combined in the 4 games before he dropped 12. So, you know, there's probably a little bit of shakiness there, but at the same time, he hasn't really had the opportunity either. So, you know, let's see what he can do. I wouldn't hate starting.
Look at what this guy is like when he's confident.
You're coming back home.
Confident Darlinstone Dubar?
Yeah. If you're going to
sign me up every day of the week. Confident Darlinstone Dubar. He's just my kind of player, man. I can't, like, he's just my kind of player. Like, I just
well, I have to say here, and like this is so
real ball
classic
knowers know.
Conversation with Chase where like I start kind of agreeing with his point and then he just inflates it so much. What you said is he's a 3-and-D guy. That's the case. I agree with that. You called him a bucket earlier. He hasn't scored on anything but a wide open 3 or an offensive putback all season. So let's not act like he's.
Well, hold on. They weren't all open. They weren't all wide open on Saturday night. He had some hands in his face. They were contested.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. He on catch and shoot threes. I should
yeah.
say, would be.
But that's a lot of this offense. I mean, when you have Zakai moving around, it's going to be a lot of catch and shoot.
I'm saying it's not. I'm just not. You're sitting here acting like he's.
Give him more time. Hey, maybe he's going to do some off the dribble stuff. Give him 26 minutes a game. Let's see what he does. I don't know what. I think he has more in his bag.
I think so too.
Maybe so.
I'm not sure he's the answer, but I firmly believe that he has more in his bag and that he has just not been able to show it. I would agree with that.
And it's worth exploring.
He didn't do much of it at Hofstra last year. I'll just say that. He didn't do a whole lot of creating off the dribble at Hofstra last season. So,
but he doesn't have to be. Like, Tennessee's really good, even if he doesn't. Like, they just need shooting. Like, there's just no way around it. They have to shoot threes.
I agree with that point. The other point you said that, or maybe not point, but the thing you tossed out there, it's like, this could really help Chaz. This is going to change nothing for Chaz. Chaz is going to be game planned and treated the exact same way by every opponent, whether Darlinstone Dubar or Jemai Mashak's in the starting lineup or not. Maybe it creates a little bit more driving lanes, because people will have to respect Dubar more, but that's going to be the case with any other player, and that's obviously not where Chaz. That's not Chaz's bread and butter. So,
okay, so explain Chaz. I want to get you and Ethan's perspective on this, like what you're seeing here, like like how much of it is what teams are doing to Chaz and forcing the issue? How much of it is just Chaz is kind of in his head and overthinking some stuff? Like what is real and what's not with Chaz Lanier's 2 games this week? And should Vol fans be a little bit panicky here?
Not panicky at all. I think this was probably to be expected to some level. Just because he's not, like, he's got what I just said, like, he's not great at getting the basket and scoring, so he has flaws in his offensive game. And now you're seeing teams make this priority, 1 and a big drop off to priority 2 when you're defending Tennessee. I do think some of it's the attention. I think some of it's the physicality that people are playing with while defending him. I think some of it's a mix of in his head. Like, I think he just shot poorly for a large part of the Florida game. Like, he got some good shots and just missed shots that he's made. I think maybe he let that affect him a little bit. And I think there's a little bit of an element of him trying to do too much. Like the Texas game, I thought there were a number of times where he is either driving or coming off a screen and he puts the ball on the floor once or twice when he's got to give it up a little bit quicker. There's guys open, and if he keeps things moving, maybe it doesn't end in him getting the bucket or him getting a shot, but Tennessee's all of a sudden got the opposed, defense scrambling, and that's going to lead to good looks where I think he's a couple of times just held onto the ball a little bit too long while trying to force the issue. So I think it's a little bit of a little bit of a couple of different things. I'm not overly worried about it long term. I think bad week, life in the SEC. I think you'll see him sooner rather than later get back and get going again.
What do you think, Ryan or Ethan?
I would agree with that. I'm not particularly worried about it, and you kind of have to think too. Like, Chaz started, and he played well against Illinois. He played well against Baylor. He started as one of the hottest 3-point shooters in the country. He still is, but his numbers are going down because you go on the road to Florida, who's a good perimeter defensive team. You miss your first 3 shots, all of which were makeable shots. That has to do something to your confidence, number one. And then it just kind of kept going downhill. Like, he still hasn't. He didn't shoot very well from 3 in the. He scored 10 points in the Texas game, whereas he was dropping upper teens and 20s earlier in the year. And I feel like it really just comes from a lot of stuff. It's you're gonna have tougher defenses in the SEC, and I feel at times, love the guy. I feel like at times he can be a little screen reliant, trying to get a shot off, and they're just guarding him tougher. He's missing shots, and eventually the law of averages says that number has to go down because he was sitting at like 48% from 3 at some point in late December. And it's like those numbers are going to go down. He's not going to shoot 48% from three in SEC play this entire season. So I'm not worried about it. I think it'll go back up. I don't think we're going to see him shooting, 50% from three across a month span. But I do think that he's going to remain the guy that they use in the DK role, I guess, as far as his usage rate is concerned. He's going to be the guy that's scoring. He's going to be the guy that teams are game planning against the most. But as far as if I think he's just going to drop off a cliff in SEC play, and this is what we're going to see for the rest of the year, I don't buy that at all.
It's kind of wild if you look at his last year at UNF and where he's at Tennessee. The numbers are almost the exact same: 19.7 points per game, 19. You look at his assists right there. Rebounds, he's actually rebounding a little bit less. Free throw percentage a little bit down, but the free throws is what drives me nuts. Like the free throws, him only going to the line basically once a game. I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's I've seen a lot of Trae Young in my life, being an Atlanta Hawks guy, and just seeing smaller guards come off pent downs and screens and just lean into some fouls and get some 3-point 3-shot attempts from deep. I would like to see more of that. Like Chaz just doesn't get fouled. And you just watch the way he plays. He doesn't really play with contact. And again, that doesn't mean he can't be an extremely important and really good player for Tennessee, but that is something that I wish his game did have, because that would help in these offensive droughts, is Chaz being able to get downhill or get these defenders who are coming off screens trying to defend him, draw contact. If you're not going there, draw some contact and go to the line, because he is a really good free throw shooter as well. I don't know. That's something else I've written down in the last couple of days of I just wish that was more a part of his game, is that he was able to draw more jump shot fouls.
Yeah, I agree. Boy, did he get assaulted at the rim against Florida with a no call.
Yeah. I don't think that's his. That's not his forte, man. He's not comfortable doing that. That's not his forte.
No, he's a shooter. That's the nature of it. I agree with all that.
All that being said, we should mention Okpara played a really good game. I thought Okpara was kind of another one.
He was the best player at Florida too, I thought. Yeah. I think he's been good since that week, Miami, Illinois. That week he struggled. I think ever since then he's played really well. In what his role is. So, you had to stock up. Obviously, it's D Stone's a stock up guy this week.
Yeah.
To me, I really feel like Felix is, and I feel like he's, again, his ceiling on this team isn't super, super high, but I feel like he's starting to turn the corner and being really efficient in what Tennessee wants him to do.
Yeah, Ethan. It's not going to come up in the stat sheet, but I think Okpara is playing winning, positive basketball for Tennessee, and I think this was a really great week for him. That's just he's just not going to be the type of game that he plays. Is just not. He plays a role that Tennessee very much needs and is effective, but it's just not going to get the praise, and it's not really the most fun stuff to watch when Okpara is playing really well.
Yeah, I'd equate it to an offensive guard. They're doing the dirty work, but they're not going to get the praise. Felix has absolutely taken the step forward. I agree with Ryan in that he was he was Tennessee's best player against Florida. He was one of the only ones to show up against Florida. And in this last game, it was him and Dubar. I feel like were the most important players of Tennessee's win over Texas. Moving forward, you see what he did against Florida. Tennessee loses by 30, but the fact that he was fighting on the boards against a team that is as good on the boards, especially offensive boards, as Florida was, to see him hold his own against that in Florida, and then go and I'm not sure I'd use the word dominate. He had 9 rebounds against Texas, but played very, very well against some good bigs there in Cedric and Kaluma. Moving forward, that's more of that and more of that consistency down low, and your big guy is not going to shy away from contact, and he's going to go get the ball when he needs to go get the ball. That's all we need him to do, and be a lob threat. And he's done that and more. I feel like he's really gelled into that role across the past couple weeks than he did earlier in the season, where, I think I said it before, I was not terrified of the prospect of it, but I was a little nervous whether or not it would translate into SEC play. And boy, was I wrong. He's really impressed, and I'd say gone a little above and beyond where I thought he would be at this point. So that's nice to see.
And they really need to get Cade Phillips healthy. Ryan, what is the is that going to linger, the shoulder thing? Is it better to just shut him down for a little bit to get it, or what's happening with Cade?
I'm no doctor, but that preface, I'm sure everybody thought it probably was.
Well, what's the read based on talking about? Like, what do you think the temperature is on Cade's just availability and what's going to happen here over the next couple of weeks?
I mean, I think it's going to linger would be my guess, and
Hmm.
I don't think you can really afford to rest him a ton and just not play him when I'm not sure that there's any guarantee that it's just all of a sudden going to be 100% again if he doesn't play for a week or something. So, um, yeah, I mean, I do think it's an issue and one that's probably going to linger, but I don't have any sort of strong feel on what
That just
happens.
sucks, man. He was playing so well and was really finding
Yeah,
his rhythm on this. And he's someone they can't, like, they need more from Cade Phillips. And it's not like, I don't know. That kind of scares me, the Cade factor here. Cause I mean, it's just getting, it's just getting thinner and thinner. And I don't know. I'm not talking about my hairline here, but Tennessee's rotation here it's thin. It's a little thin here. Is it the same thing that Bishop Boswell dealt with or no?
I mean, it's a shoulder injury. I don't think Bishop's was ever dislocated, so I
Okay.
think this was more like a strain. So I think maybe a little bit more significant, but I don't know
Hmm.
the exact details to compare it to. And one stat while we're on the subject of rebounding, and the sneaky stat for me from this Tennessee Texas game to sit out because it didn't really feel like Tennessee did a great job on the boards watching that game live. But Tennessee missed 31 shots and they got 17 offensive rebounds. So
Hmm.
they got a lot of they really had a lot of success on the offensive boards. They weren't great on the defensive boards, but were really good on the offensive boards. And frankly, when Tennessee didn't turn the ball, I mean that was a really low possession game. I'm trying to double check the math here. Yeah, they scored 1.2 3 points per possession. Really, when Tennessee didn't turn the ball over, which they turned the ball over a lot, their offense was really good in that game. And once again, it feels like when Tennessee's offense is really good, offensive rebounding is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think the turnovers, like, they had what, 10 in the first half, 5 in the second. Um, the offense, like, you didn't come away going like the offense felt like a train wreck, Keith, and like it just the turnover stuff was just maddening. And also overthinking. Like, they were getting good looks and they're passing, but like it's just there's
Yeah.
little things with it you can clean up. Like, I'm not panicking about Tennessee's offense. I do just think there's one particular tweak on Wednesday against those Georgia Bulldogs in Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. We'll wrap with this. Ethan, what are what like the dogs have not been ranked since the Obama administration I saw tonight. So it's been a while since the Georgia Bulldogs had a feisty men's basketball team. So what are the Vols in for on Wednesday when the Bulldogs come in? Do you think this is a good matchup for Tennessee? Do you think this could be a problem for the Vols? What say you about Tennessee Georgia on Wednesday night?
Yeah, it's a tough one because they played very, very well against Kentucky and probably I wouldn't say even better, but equally as well against Oklahoma, which are both going to be NCAA tournament teams. Georgia, speaking of, I mean, they're pretty much a shoo-in to make the tournament. I say a shoo-in. I think they're a shoo-in to make the tournament for the first time since 2015. I've watched a couple of their games. They're fun. They're really, really good. I don't even know how to say his first name, so I'm not going to do it. But Cyril, they're like 6'11" guy.
Mm.
He is the most fun non-box score guy of all time. He is a bowling ball in the paint. He's so much fun. Him combined with Newell, who is kind of like the exact opposite kind of post guy. He's a former 5-star guy. He's probably going to go in the draft. It's going to create a lot of very interesting dynamics, matchups for the front court, especially a little concerning with Cade kind of dealing with his injury, how he is. But on the other side of things, with Felix playing as well as he's played, I'm very, very interested to see this matchup between him and Cyril plus Newell plus whatever else they decide to do down low. They're a team that wants to score down low. They don't shoot a whole bunch of threes. They don't do a lot of their work from three. They don't really have a three-point shooter apart from Dakota LeFew. So there's just a lot of kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of like mid-guard play a little bit. Blue Cane has flashes every once in a while, but if Georgia's going to beat Tennessee, they're going to have to do it down low, and it's going to be made all the tougher having to come to Thompson Bowling, to Food City Center, and play a Tennessee team that just does not lose at home. They struggled already on the road against Mississippi. That was their one loss in SEC play, and then they lost a neutral site game earlier this year as well. I think it was to Marquette. But yeah, Georgia's fun. They're a lot of fun. They're going to win a lot of games in the SEC this year, and it's going to be really tough. But I think Tennessee matches up fairly well against them. They aren't like they're pretty good on the board, similar to how Florida was. So that makes me a little nervous. But again, I think the major factor here is going to be the fact that Tennessee gets it at home and Georgia doesn't.
I mean, yeah, Tennessee had to fight back. That was one of the biggest comebacks of the year last year, was Tennessee and Athens, right? Like that was they got down in a big hole and had to come back, and they barely escaped the Georgia game with a win. Do you agree with Ryan's sentiment here about the home being the biggest part of it, Ryan, and also that the rebounding aspect? And they got some size and they got some feistiness that could give Tennessee problems in Knoxville on Wednesday night.
I think Ethan did hit a lot of it, right on the head. I think it's going to be a very physical game. And rebounding will be big. Georgia, really good defensively, kind of meh offensively. So, it has the nature to be a game where Georgia can kind of muck it up. But at the same time, like I like Tennessee's chances. Georgia, to me, feels like a program that's resurgent, and a lot of these programs like this that are resurgent and have these first year kind of breakouts really good at home, going on the road and winning becomes a lot more of a struggle. And how many times over the last handful of years have we seen a team come into Knoxville and be able to muck it up and beat Tennessee? Like South Carolina last year, maybe I'm missing another one, but like that's just hard to do. So a much better game than you'd expect it to be when the schedule got released. The most fun Georgia team since the late Mark Fox days with Nemanja Jurisic, JJ Fraser, Yante Maton. Great teams that always underachieved. So cool to see Georgia basketball back being pretty competent. I do think this is a tournament team and a harder game. Certainly one, to Ethan's point, that you're like, glad Tennessee gets this one at home, doesn't have to go on the road. I always find that fascinating when you start a season and when you end the season and you look back. Because one of the big things in college basketball as a whole, you look at conference schedules, like, where do you get these games at? You're like, oh man, sucks that they had to play. You'd want to switch that one home and away. And then it's always, I think, fun to look back at the end of the year and be like, no, that actually worked out better that they got it at home. And I think Georgia will be one of those this year.
This would be a terrifying game to me if it was in Athens. Like they
I think Tennessee would lose in Athens. I mean, Athens is a house of horrors for them too. I mean, when they've won there, it's been ugly. Like they beat the very last game of Tom Crean's era on that just despicable team. Tennessee won by like 4 points. Like Tennessee never plays well in Athens, and has struggled with a lot worse Georgia teams than this one.
I love it. Ethan Stone, because I don't think Ryan had anything really going on at Rocky Top Insider this week. What can the good folks check out from you and the team over at SaturdayDownSouth.com this week?
Yeah, we got the national championship game set. Of course, we're going to get that, I guess, in a week now here. Ohio State, Notre Dame, no SEC teams, but we'll still have full coverage at SDS. Otherwise, just kind of keeping it chill. We got recruiting stuff. We'll be probably doing some previews, some betting previews for both of our sites. So go check those out.
Braden Berries, come on down. Make it happen. Not giving up.
Ahead of time.
Let's get Braden Berries in here. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Berries?
Yeah.
Is it just Berries?
Yeah.
I like it. Nate Emmett, let's get them all in. It's 5-star Mania on Rocky Top this spring.
Scholarships are open, guys. Come on. We got plenty of them.
One 5-star.
Yeah. Yuri Collins' brother.
Don't go spending all the NIL money on 2 freshmen.
That's probably
Save it for the portal.
In all seriousness, Ryan Schumpert wrote a very good piece, an oral history of Lane Kiffin's abrupt resignation and departure from the University of Tennessee. And it was 15 years ago yesterday. And it went viral, as the kids say. So if you've not already, go check out Ryan's great piece on RockyTopInsider.com and share it, all that good stuff, and let people read it, because I think any Tennessee fan who has not gone through it will enjoy it. I mean, I think the highlights, there are some, Ryan got some great quotes here, but I think Ethan and I are on the same page that Marlon Walls, I think he's the star of the piece here. From my vantage point.
Yeah,
it's a great piece.
That was incredible. I was like, this guy's amazing. I was like, I didn't really know anything about the ins and outs of what happened in the locker room, but like, I was like, this guy's incredible. Holy cow, he's got some bangers.
Yeah, no, Marlon Walls, all production, no notes, just rise and fire, man. He was doing great stuff. But go check it out. RockyTopInsider.com today. Go check out all of Ethan's great work over at Today Down South as well. And I will talk to you all next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.